Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Kenya sends off its maiden shipment of home-drilled oil. As the government hails the day as being an economic turning point, communities around the production site remind their leaders of promises to share the benefit fairly. Also, South Africa hopes that the China-US trade war will mean more demand for its rare earth, mined at a site with some of the highest deposits of the precious minerals in the world. And Africa Reimagined. We meet some of the creatives at Ghana's Chale Wote Art Festival. For the 9th edition, artists have been reshaping interpretations of the continent's past in light of the world's present and in anticipation of Africa's footprint on the future. We take a closer look. But first, Kenya has exported its first ever shipment of crude oil. President Uhuru Kenyatta said it was a special moment in the country's history as the tanker carrying hundreds of thousands of barrels was flagged off from Mombasa on Monday. Commercial production for the country is still a ways off, but the discovery of oil in Turkana in northern Kenya back in 2012 sparked hopes of a new potential boost to the country's economy. Ruben Kiama tells us more about why, at a time when there's so much international focus on sustainable energy, it's so important to Kenya to become an oil exporting nation.
Kenya has traditionally relied on oil imports, especially from the Middle East oil-producing countries, with the oil import bill exerting pressure on the local currency. And this has also affected the country's export earnings, especially earnings that are gotten from the main exports of tea, coffee, and cut flour. So with the commercial production, Kenya is expected to boost its economic growth, especially at a time when it also aims at accelerating sustainable growth to become an upper middle income country by the year 2030.
Now, is this discovery of oil and the beginning of shipping it overseas, is this likely to help the communities around Turkana where the oil was found? Do leaders there trust that they'll see any of the financial benefit?
The local leaders here have been asking the government to stick to its commitment to share the revenues from the future shipments, in an equitable way. What I can say, in March this year, the President Uhuru Kenyatta, signed into law a long-awaited petroleum bill that regulates oil exploration and production, and also it also regulates how revenues are to be shared among the stakeholders. And according to this law, the revenues allocated, like 20% of the allocation will go to the local government, 5% will go to the communities living adjacent to the oil fields, and then the central government, will get 75%. So this is actually a discussion that is still ongoing, but you will recall that the first batch of the shipment, the amount of money that will be earned from this first batch, much of it is expected to go to the logistical and also the exploration costs. So very little will trickle down to the community with this particular first batch. But maybe in the next, with the commercial production expected, things are expected to change, and probably the communities are expecting to get some benefits out of it.
Ruben Kiama there for us in Nairobi. Look now at some news in brief. Sudan's declared a state of emergency in the eastern Red Sea state after fatal tribal clashes. Medics say that around 37 people have been killed there. Police, though, put the number at about 16. Fighting broke out between the Bani Amer and the Nuba communities last week. Port Sudan is the country's main port city and the state capital. DR Congo's new government is dominated by allies of former President Joseph Kabila. Current leader, Felix Tshisekedi, won elections last December. He since denied accusations that his victory was rigged in a secret deal with Kabila. Voters had a long wait for the new cabinet to be assembled, and most ministers named on Monday have little or no government experience. 42 of the 65 appointed come from Kabila's coalition, compared to 23 from Tshisekedi's. France's leader Emmanuel Macron is considering launching a campaign to raise global awareness about the forest fires raging in parts of Africa. There's international worry about the environmental impact of blazes currently ravaging through Brazil's Amazon rainforest, but Angola and DR Congo are currently facing even bigger fires. These images are from some in Kukumbi in Angola. Researchers say that climate change is increasing the number of massive fires across Central Africa. Now, operators of a South African mine with some of the highest concentrations of rare earth in the world are hoping to give China a run for its money on the international market. The minerals are used in advanced tech products like mobile phones and electric cars. The current trade war between the US and Beijing could mean a huge spike in demand for South African deposits. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
Steenkampskraal mine is situated in western South Africa. In the 1950s and 60s, it produced a component of nuclear fuel. Now it's been found to have some of the world's highest grade deposits of rare earth metals. Their manufacturing use ranges from hybrid cars to consumer electronic devices and medical equipment. Worldwide, most mines have around 6% or less rare earths in their metals. Here, it's more than double that figure.
About 14% of this rock is rare earths. That is an extraordinarily high grade, and we don't know anything like it on the planet. So Steenkampskraal will become a very important source of rare earths for global industry.
Steenkampskraal has all the licenses to start mining, but it still needs 45 million euros funding before it can operate. Some experts believe it will find that sum because global demand for rare earth metals is rising.
South Africa is certainly on par with any other country that would lay claim to being able to supply rare earth elements to meet this increasing demand. So yes, it would mean a great deal to our country to be able to supply, and we are in a position to do so as long as those markets are favorable.
Other analysts are more cautious. They stress that the rare earth sector in South Africa is largely undeveloped and could fall behind other nations like the US, China or Russia.
Well, Ghana's capital, Accra, is currently hosting the 9th Chale Wote Art Festival. Parts of Jamestown are being transformed by hundreds of creatives and tens of thousands of revelers. This year's theme grapples with Africa's place in the world's past, present and future. Our correspondents tell us more.
Thousands flock to historic Jamestown in Accra for the 9th Chale Wote Street Art Festival, one of the largest in Africa. You can soak up all the sights and sounds while showing off your latest look. But Chale Wote also has a serious theme. Africans made colonial languages their own with pidgin. Can the continent now take the same approach with technology?
So if one thinks about pidgin, this idea of taking something that's imposed upon you, chopping it up and kind of reassembling it in a way that is productive and liberating for yourself is something we're particularly interested in.
His piece, The Dark Cloud, places Zulu systems of understanding the universe in a future digital context as he questions who controls the internet. With TVs as the bricks, a local artist is building a monument giving used objects a different future. He's also reclaiming the site of the monument, James Fort, a former British slave trading post. Screens are reanimated with photos to bring them a second life.
It breaks the boundary of photography, what you see or what you know, because yes, this is a cathode ray television set, but now what you see, because it's not powered to anything, but what you see is different.
Nando Nkrumah uses augmented reality to encourage interaction with Ghana's past, present and future. He believes the rest of the world could learn from an alternative African future.
The solutions that have been valid in the past and the technology of the West, people now in Europe understand that this is spoiling the planet, so they try to be more sensitive with, let's say, African lifestyle tradition.
After the continent's past of exploitation and a globally uncertain present, tradition merges with contemporary ideas to outline a future the artists hope Africans will shape in the best of their own image.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do stay tuned. More coming up after a short break. Take care.